Because you were naughty, we are back to haunt your dreams. Hello, everybody! Welcome to another jam-packed action edition of David Lee Madison's The End of the Night. I, of course, am your host, the buffoon, the big goon, the schmo, David Lee Madison. And, of course, this right here is my dear friend, my co-host, my producer, the grand poobah of everything Indie Escape, Mr. Joe Ridgely. Joe, how are you doing this beautiful Sunday evening?
I am excellent. Again, glad to be back. We're going to be a little sporadic over the next month, it sounds like, but bear with us, folks. We're keep chugging along.
You know, Joe, unlike a lot of the other shows on the network, we're at episode like 2,946. So they have to have a little mercy on our souls because, you know, there's only so many people you could interview. I mean, we pretty much interviewed everybody on the planet at this point.
We were pretty damn close, yeah.
Pretty damn close. So, Joe, I went to the movies. I have a local theater that I'm actually able, because I'm still really COVID paranoid, and I hate going to jam-packed movies. So I rent out the theater, and I rented it out this week to see Cocaine Bear and the new Scream 6. Now, have you seen either of these films?
I've seen Cocaine Bear. Really didn't have any desire to see Scream 6, to be honest.
Okay, what did you think of Cocaine Bear?
I thought it was funny as hell as a parody movie, and I enjoyed it.
I thought it was a fun B horror movie. Elizabeth, I didn't know this until like literally a couple days before I seen it. Elizabeth Banks directed that film.
Yeah.
So I mean, I thought that was pretty cool. It was a cool enough movie, and it's everything that somebody who's going to see a movie called Cocaine Bear would expect. And have you seen that? Like there are knockoff movies like Crack Squirrel and
Yes.
you know, Pothead Moose and all kinds of stuff that's coming up.
It's going to become the next Amityville.
Yes, like what was that movie with the tornadoes and the it's going to be like the next Sharknado.
Sharknado.
Yeah. And so I would tell everybody out there, if you're going out to have fun at the movies and just enjoy a totally mindless buffoonery film, Cocaine Bear is for you.
I mean, for Ray Liotta's last performance as well.
I know, and that's actually kind of horrifying that, you know, Ray Liotta, who worked with Scorsese and did some really, really almost epic masterpiece films. I mean, Goodfellas is regarded as one of the greatest films of all time. To go out on Cocaine Bear, it is what it is. But with that being said, Scream 6 was the other thing. Now, I was super excited because I grew up in New York City. I went to school in New York City. I went to LaSalle Academy on 2nd Avenue and 2nd Street. I took the F train in from Middle Village.
Okay, wait. I got to interrupt. So was it better than Jason Takes Manhattan?
Here's my problem with Scream 6, and I didn't think that this was going to actually happen with this film. This is clearly a film where they sent out a second unit and got some B-roll of New York City, but then they went and shot it like in Canada or something, because clearly it's not New York City. And that when they do that kind of stuff, it really, really pisses me off because part of what I was anticipating the character of the film was New York City being a part of the movie. Now, New York City, when used properly, is really, really a great character in films. I mean, Nighthawks. Did you see Nighthawks with
I did
Sylvester
see,
Stallone and
yes.
Billy D. Williams? There is no more, or Taxi Driver. There's no more New York City film than Nighthawks, the big finale where Rutger Hauer and Wolfgar got the tramway car over the 59th Street Bridge and all kinds of cool stuff. And you could tell that every scene of that movie was actually shot in New York City. And this is a fatal flaw in Scream 6 in that you want it to be Scream in New York City, and they
Right.
failed on every possible level of making New York City an important character of the film. But the truth be told is that uh, it was mildly entertaining, and Jenna Ortega is becoming like an enormous star, so it was kind of fun in that aspect. But just as a movie, I mean, I would avoid it. And it's a blockbuster hit. I think it's made over $100 million worldwide already.
Yeah, it
But
beat Creed 3. And so did you miss Nev Campbell?
oh, she's not in this one. Are you asking me
I
did
know.
I
I
miss
said, did
having her
you
in the
miss
movie?
her? Yeah.
No, no. I mean, she doesn't. Sadly, that character doesn't pack like the Jamie Lee Curtis vibe in Halloween, or for that matter, the Danielle Harris vibe that she had in Halloween 4 and 5.
All right.
Uh,
So we got Ken saying good evening, friends. And also, Scream 6 was filmed in my town, Montreal.
there you go.
Nice.
It was so Montreal did a very, very poor job of playing New York City. Just to let you know, Ken. But
And Ken, Montreal does very poorly at playing Chicago or San Francisco or anywhere else.
one of my favorite directors, Miss Libby McDermott, is on. Hello, Libby. I hope you are well. I miss you. I hope to get to see you soon. Uh, but yes, so Cocaine Bear, if you get a chance, go check it out. Scream 6, you could wait for digital if you're really into the Scream.
Hey, Cocaine Bear is on digital now, so everybody take a look.
Oh, it's on Vudu or something. You know, it was a really good flick. I don't know if I got to talk about this one, but I got to see Knock on the Cabin. Did I talk about this on the last show?
No, I don't
The
think you
M Night
did.
Shyamalan movie.
I started
That
watching it. I fell asleep.
really.
When I was tired, not that it was boring. It was just, yeah, I have to get back to it.
Wow. Okay, then I won't say anything nice about it if you actually fell asleep. That's not being you.
Oh, I mean, the Guardians of the Galaxy wrestler guy, I remember seeing him in it for a
Yes,
bit.
yes, yes. He plays the big scary guy, oddly enough. Uh, so tell us a little bit. I know that your beautiful wife and daughter have this amazing product and amazing company. Tell us a little bit about what's going on with that because I know all kinds of cool stuff's going on.
There is, thank you. That's well, it's Hearts of the Mystic Folk, but they're actually going through a rebranding because they're adding so much more stuff. So they're going to do a whole advertising blitz probably within the next month. So I think we're going to check up with them then.
Oh, sweet. So check them out on Facebook at Hearts of the Mystic Folk to stay up to date on what cool swag they have cooking.
Please and
They
thank you.
they have some cool stuff. And what's going on in the network? I see that Wendy's doing some wonderful things, and Dave
Man,
and JW. Everybody's got some cool shit cooking.
let me tell you, JW and Rich, they have Generation Movie and they're doing their Oscar Decade Cavalcade. And tomorrow they're reviewing One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest,
Oh, sweet.
which I think has to be one of my favorite movies of all times.
I
But
could honestly say I've never sat through it in its entirety.
really,
Yeah, it's one of those
you as
ones.
a filmmaker, that makes me think
I haven't
that,
seen One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest or The Godfather.
oh, I just got the Godfather chronological order that has all three movies
Oh, sweet.
combined. Yes.
You know, I was dragged kicking and screaming when I was in college because I think Godfather 3 came out in like 91 when I was at school. And like 15 minutes in, man, I was out. I was sleeping. But the professor was making us
Uh,
go see that one. But I
we
was a
got
big.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
What were you say?
We got two more things to touch on real fast. On Wednesday night, we have the Indie Escape presents Harlow's Haunt Road to MegaCon Orlando. This is one of the biggest conventions in Florida. Uh, we're going to be at the Halloween Horror Picture Show to screen Harlow's Haunt, and then afterwards there's going to be a live Q&A. So pay attention to that. And then, as you mentioned, Wendy has a show this Thursday with special guest actor, producer, and director Kevin Wayne.
Sweet, that's awesome. Now, you're making your way over to that Orlando con?
Yes, I'll be at the convention in Orlando with Terry and Harlow's Haunt, moderating / hosting the panel, and I'll be at the screening as well.
That's awesome. Congratulations. That's
Thank you.
Really cool to hear. You guys are doing some really cool stuff down there.
We appreciate that.
Without further ado, is our lovely co-host and dear friend and the legendary Grunkle Scott around.
The Hunka Burnin' Love.
Ladies and gentlemen, Grunkle Scott Schiaffo. Hi, Grunkle Scott. How are you?
Good. How are you, man?
I'm hanging in there, just moseying along. You know what? Every time at this time of year, I might have, I guess, seasonal depression or something, because I can't. It's just like you can't get over that hump of it actually becoming nice out. It just can't stay with you for a couple days. Like, you go out in the afternoon and it's 60 and it's wonderful. But if I went outside right now, it's probably about 35. I freeze my kishkis off, and it just starts to suck after a while, especially when you become an old man like me.
Well, you guys, didn't you get hammered pretty badly this year?
We didn't. We got hammered with like nuisance storms. We usually have that one big doozy that's 3 or 4 feet. We didn't get this year, so I didn't shoot at Wits End 2, oddly enough. But we had just the little spritzes. But it's always cold up here on the mountain. It's always cold.
We got really lucky here. We didn't really get. I don't think we had any accumulations of snow. But did I hear you correctly? Did you say you never watched the first Godfather ever?
I have never, ever watched the first Godfather. I have absolutely, for some reason, I watch little 10-minute bits that I see when I'm changing channels and stuff. And I always find it to be unbelievably ponderously boring. So, and I do like my occasional mob movie. I think I could watch Goodfellas till the cows come home. And I actually am one of those people who, like, I think Casino's a pretty freaking cool movie. But I can't watch Godfather. And what's the other one that I really can't stand? Oh, and the one that he just did, The Irishman. I don't know what Scorsese must have been doing crack or something when he did that movie.
I haven't seen that one yet.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Yeah, it's a real step down.
But
from,
he didn't see One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest either.
Oh, I heard that too as well. I mean, there are a number of films that are, I guess, iconic and huge. Matt, I've never seen any Godfather either. Well, I've never seen E.T.
Okay.
But I don't know why I was really surprised about The Godfather.
In all honesty, Scott, though, I was really enthralled as a kid in films from like as early as the 20s, 30s, and 40s. I have a foundation in film that goes all the way back to like Metropolis and James Whale films and films that were shot, silent pic films and films shot in black and white. So I never felt like, I think for some generations, they felt like The Godfather was like their graduation into knowing film. But I was I always felt like I graduated when I was 12 when I was reciting Capra films. So I didn't really feel that need to fall into that Godfather vibe. But I understand why, it's revered and why it's loved. It's just not revered and loved by me.
Well, I can understand. I had when JW and Rich were doing the whole 007 thing. Mm-hmm. Oh, the lashing I took for saying I've never seen a full James Bond movie ever.
Really?
Yeah. So
not a one.
Not a one.
I think
Because
I
I
see.
saw the early ones, but I didn't follow along after whatever year. Whatever one that Duran Duran did the song for after that.
A View to a Kill.
Yeah, I dipped out. I mean, it's not like I followed anyway. And
Well, here's a
I
weird
just, I
thing.
thought it's interesting though, but you do have, David, you have a bit of an aversion to The Godfather. Like you feel like it,
The
or it didn't hold
storytelling.
your interest. You said you'd see snippets, and those snippets held no interest for you.
Right, and there are Italian films that were done that I saw in film classes, in that were
Eight and a
done
half.
20 years earlier, that you could tell that heavily influenced, The Godfather.
Did you ever
So
see Eight and a Half?
I'm sorry,
Have you ever seen Fellini's Eight and a Half?
I don't think so.
You would like that. I think you'd enjoy that. That's a really
Speaking of JW, good evening, kids. I would argue The Godfather Part 2 is better than The Godfather.
No, sweet.
And
I
Jeremy-
would tend to
Hi, Jeremy. Hope
understand
you're
that
well,
comment.
brother.
yeah. Well,
All right.
JW, I was just speaking about you about the whole James Bond thing that I haven't seen, and you guys got on my case. But yes, David,
Before
No,
we
no,
have
listen, we all dig what we dig. Sometimes you develop an aversion to something for reasons that have nothing to do with the film.
Right.
I don't have any problem with ET. I just never watched it.
And my aversion to The Godfather is that I literally have, if you took every chunk that I watched and assembled it, it was maybe the whole movie, but I never could get past watching maybe 10 or 12 minutes of that film without checking out. Gianni Russo just played Carlo. Oh, sweet. He just met the guy who played Carlo in The Godfather. Nice.
Sweet.
But Abe Vigoda rocks. Anything Abe Vigoda touches is gold to me. Prancer. Now that's an Abe Vigoda movie. Did you see Prancer? With that being said, Scott, before we have our featured guest come out, is there anything that you would like to talk about or promote before, or is everything quiet on the Western Front right now?
Yeah, not a lot going on for me as far as anything new. Got some cons coming up, but the next con is Canada. That's the end of next month for me. And then there's one in May.
Do you want me to drive you there so that you get there with no problems? I'll drive you
might
right
have
in.
to fly me in and then drop me.
Drop you in, yeah. With that being said, our guest tonight has been in several feature films and on television, and he's just a really great guy. I met him on just the Facebook, and we've been pals, friends on Facebook now for like 10 years, and I always wanted to have him on the show because he seems like such an interesting cat, and just a stand-up guy, and seems like everybody likes him. So he's the antithesis of me, which is awesome. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let's bring in our guest tonight, Mr. Alan Gary.
I'm
how are
honored.
you?
I feel great. Doing something you love with people who love doing it as well is the greatest blessing. That's why I
thank
do
you.
it.
You know what I wanted to ask you about? Tell me a little bit about, and if I'm totally off base, because I thought I read this somewhere and I could be wrong, and if I'm a schmuck and asking you a question that's not relevant, please say, Dave, you're a schmuck, move on. But did you have something to do with the Dr. Dementia show? Dr.
Yes,
Demento show?
yes. I have written for the Dr. Demento show when it was on Westwood One Network worldwide, and I did a bunch of comedy things. Actually, I had stuff that went to #1 on that as well. Also, I happen to, I guess, a little distinction of beating out Will Smith, Jazzy Jeff song, Parents Just Don't Understand. My song beat that out on a show with more requests. So, and then he went in one direction and I went in another. But yeah, I did a bunch of stuff for Dr. Demento show, comedy bits and
That's so
songs,
sweet.
parodies and things.
I remember in the '80s, as you guys probably remember, when when Weird Al was an unknown and was on that show all the time. And is he still with us, Dr. Demento?
Yes, he's on now a paid subscription service online. And my stuff actually still shows up and people request it. was really wild years ago when they had the 900 lines. People would call up and they'd pay money to request my songs. So people would call the psychic hotlines for porn, for my songs. So how cool is that? You know, Dionne Warwick was making money, and I'm on the Dr. Demento show, and it was a dream come true growing up and having stuff on his show. And yeah, it was definitely really wild.
Oh, that's absolutely awesome. Tell us a little bit about a young Alan. You're in high school. What made you develop this passion to work in the entertainment industry? Who are some of the people that you looked up to along the way?
Well, I mean, like any nerdy guy, you know, wanting women to adore me, and you know, still working toward that. But basically, no, growing up, music, performing, actually anything with the word, really, whether it was writing my own words or performing others, especially being very shy and you know, having lots of fears and neuroses and things. So when I was little, actually before high school, I was given a marionette set and did a little show with Beatles music. And shortly thereafter, I cut the strings because it was really a pain to move those marionettes. And I came up with ideas of giant cockroaches fighting the marionettes, and these weird movies, and I used soldiers, and so, you know, with destruction and all sorts of sci-fi and horror, and that really, you know, that and I was scared as hell watching the Twilight Zone, you know, growing up, and eventually when I did fall in love with the Twilight Zone, that became, you know, like my Bible, and those anthology series where the story meant so much. It was done so simply and quickly, and it's timeless. That the morality tales, so that influenced me a lot. I mean, without thinking, oh, this is going to influence me, but so I think that quality of writing and movies such as you know, Night of the Living Dead, and you know, working on so many different levels, and realizing later on, oh wow, this is about this could be with politics or racism, and you just about what's deep inside of us. So I think those things affected me, and just pop culture, you know, doing things, getting outside of my head, and being really afraid of a lot of things. And so eventually working with others who had similar mindsets brought me, it just doing everything from comedy, sci-fi, horror. I mean, I'm so blessed. And even as a songwriter, I've written a lot of things, and a lot of indie songs have been covered, close calls with the major ones, just like in acting. You know, I in the last dozen or so years, each year I've had some nice principal roles. Many of them were cut. Most of them were cut. Fortunately, some of the things have survived, like Prodigal Son. And, you know, I'm living it. I'm doing it. You know, it's what I love, and it's what I will always do. I'll always perform because I feel it offers me purpose in life to maybe, you know, make this world a little better by making somebody happy for a little while. That's why I do what I do.
Now, did you grow up in New York?
Brooklyn, Flatbush, Brooklyn.
Oh, sweet. I was born in Brooklyn. I was born in Wyckoff Heights Hospital. So,
Cool.
I assume that we're somewhere in the same age group? Did you grow up like being one of those Monster Times and famous monster geeks like I was?
Oh yeah, well I have I still have a comic book collection, and I've gone to the cons, you know, Phil Suling, Second Sundays. You know, I have my autographs from the Mad Magazine artists and writers, and I have all of that stuff. You know, my sports memorabilia, my political buttons, comic books, original artwork. Oh, I have some original artwork, which when it was really, really cheap to get, like covers of, you know, the oversized when it was ink before they added the color, like it's like Man Thing number 10. I mean, yeah, I have some of that early stuff.
Wow.
So I tried to get a little of everything. Of course, if I would have focused and just bought like 100 Fantastic Four #1s, you know, I would have gone in a different direction. Instead, I got a little of this, little of that. But you know what? I mean, if it made me happy, that's the main thing. And you know what? You can have things, but it's about sharing. And like we're doing now. This to me, I mean, with folks that have touched my life and influenced me, like Scott, yeah, and Clerks, and I mean, he makes me smile and laugh, and getting to know him as a person. Yeah, his challenges and how he's touched other people, his late dad, his family. I mean, he is a loving person, and you, David, you, and as well as being a great dad. I mean, getting to know Joe as well, and a little bit, did a little research on you there as well. You're from Huntington, you're from Long Island, right? Yeah. So I did my thing, and so I mean, it means something to me. Not in the idol worship thing. Yeah, I mean, I might enjoy the works that you guys have all done, and Hush and all that. But what's most important is the person. Always, it's always the intent. Like they say, never the words in the script. It's how we affect others. Everything else is is transitory. The material, that's not what's going to last. That changes. But it's the universal, and that's what we all have in common. Especially, like you say, I mean, sit down with the horror folks. I've been involved in horror film festivals. I used to volunteer with the New York City Horror Film Festival, take the tickets and stuff, and get to see the films and sit down with the late Angus Scrimm. I got to know him, one of the coolest human beings on the planet. He would sing and dance. And
you probably met Forey Ackerman, right? If you were a New York kid growing up in the horror cons.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. That's a name that you just brought up again that I haven't. I mean,
he was one of the coolest cats. I mean, back in the 70s, he brought the famous Monsters Con, the very first horror convention, to New York City, 1975.
I've been to the Star Trek conventions too. I mean, most of the Star Trek folks in the beginning days where you could just hang out there and talk, and with just a few people, and
Alan,
I mean,
let me tell
I'm
you,
a fan.
The very first horror convention, famous Monsters Convention in 1975, they had two guests. It was Vincent Price and Peter Cushing.
Wow.
And they didn't charge you for autographs. You literally got an autograph just for attending. And they sat there, Alan, and they spoke with every single person who came up. They signed their autographs. They took their pictures. It was all about what you said about being able to have that moment. And I'll be honest with you, I've been blessed to know a lot of people who work in the industry, but I am super impressed by the ones who are kind with their time and generous with their knowledge and are in this realizing that it's more of an artistic endeavor than it is more of a financial endeavor. And you totally get that, which is pretty.
You know what? Actually, that's true. A lot of people don't realize that some of the folks who do the outrageous, the campy, the horror, the most down-to-earth folks on this planet, which will sit with you and talk. And it's often the ones you watch out for, the conservative, the ones that, preach that look a certain way. But you know what? Being yourself, we all have gifts. Everybody has gifts and everybody has challenges. I mean, but like I say, Isaac Asimov, I mean, I would sit down with him at the cons, and yeah, I mean, the most down-to-earth people are the ones who express the universal feelings, and we all have the feelings of, like I said before, about fear and anger, and if we can do that, and it would be like what my mom taught me. She taught me, she remains my hero. My mom taught me constructive, not destructive. Just that. I mean, and to try to live by that. I mean, she had the gifts, though. She was the one. You asked me about, who was my hero, who influenced me? My mom had the natural ability to sing, to dance. She had it. I have had to work at what I do. I mean, I fake it. Maybe I'm a good actor. I'm faking that I'm an actor. I don't know. But the point is, she believed in me unconditionally. So it wasn't just, I mean, I could go out and do, background work, and you're wonderful for you, not just, you doing that show. And I had the honor, of returning that. I took care of her. I was her caregiver when she had cancer. And I say, it's the hardest job I ever loved. I mean, in her hospital, and when she was passing, she had my picture of, on a Law and Order. I was playing homeless, and she said, the doctors and nurses, that's my son. And it was tough, and I had the phone. I had to turn it off. I put it on vibrated. I didn't want to go to any auditions or gigs or anything because I wanted to be with her. And she'd hear the phone go, and she's like, "You have to go to that, or I'm going to be unhappy." I'm like, "Wow, what a!" I mean, but my mom, she had the ability. She could sing. She could do it all. I have an old record she made on Coney Island when you put the money in, and you used to be able to make those records and stuff. And what a beautiful voice and a beautiful lady. That my mom is my hero. That's who influenced me to be creative and to want to touch lives. And yeah, when I was little, yeah, the challenges learning, I learned differently. I didn't know how to read until I was like almost in junior high. But you know what? With my mom, every day, hours after school, she helped me to learn. And eventually I got skipped 2 grades. I have a master's degree in English as well as linguistics. My mom, the school system sucked. They made fun of me. They put me down. But my mom was my hero. So you know what? To those who didn't think I could do it. And I'm loving and I'm blessed by the blessings that I have. And I mean it. I mean, just, being here, this means a lot, because you guys touch my life, and I hope that I touch yours.
No, absolutely. And
What a sweetheart this dude is, man.
Yeah, no. And
I love
anybody,
this guy.
there's a great song by Dean Martin called "Any Man Who Loves His Mother Is Man Enough for Me." And that's a pretty, that was very, very kind. And she's.
I'm a mama's boy. I admit it.
No,
That's the sweetest thing I've heard in forever.
That's
That's
not what
like a
I'm.
beautiful
That's not what
thing.
I'm going. That's not what I'm saying at all. I think it's extraordinarily cool and classy that you show that kind of love and respect for your mom. John Wayne says, "Sounds like your mom was a keeper. We should all be so lucky." I couldn't agree with him more. Good evening, Michael. I hope you're well. That's my cousin Michael, who lives in Florida.
Somebody have a question. War of the Worlds. Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yes, I worked. Oh, that was great. I worked with Steven Spielberg and Tom Cruise for a month, and it was incredible. I was actually his mark. Wherever Tom Cruise was, I was a few feet ahead of him, and he followed because I have a ponytail. I have my hair's long, and he could follow me. And as you see, I have a lot of energy. When I focus my energy, and actually I could hyper focus. Whenever the first scene was 105 shots, and took a week to do it. So we would run, and he would follow me through the maze of things. And when you saw the cars explode, now they didn't blow up the cars on set, but they would saw them in half and put them there. So you had to be careful. I mean, you have these cars which are like sharp, and you can die if you fall into them. So I ran, and the stunt folks who would die, and then their clothes would stay there, but their bodies would disappear. But I would keep running. And Tom Cruise ran behind me, introduced himself. He was very professional. He was concerned when somebody would fall. At 3:00, the kids would get home from school. 3 to 3:30, he'd go over and he'd sign their autographs. Steven Spielberg said hi to me, and again, it's relationships. I got that because I had helped the second AD when he started as a the PA some years before that. I met him on set, and I would give him a lead for a show if they needed a PA, just because it was the right thing to do. And he brought me to the attention. They needed some people who were really focused and serious, and so I ended up getting a whole month of work on War of the Worlds. It was like, and my mom saw that before she passed away. The last thing, she was sick, so her little baby's going to be okay. So it was great. So yeah, thank you for that question in there. Wow.
And that's really
Awesome.
That movie doesn't get the amount of love that it deserves. I guess because perhaps it's a remake, but it's a really, really fantastic movie. I actually think it's Tom Cruise's best movie. That War of the Worlds is just, there's a scene when they're going by train tracks and the arms come down and there's no train for a minute or two, and then all of a sudden one flies by at like 200 miles an hour, like on fire, and people screaming, and it was just so effectively done. It was just such a great movie. I wish I wish I had anything to do with that movie, but that was a really cool flick. I wanted to ask you about the 10 Grand Theater Company at the Algonquin Theater, because I saw a lot of great things at the Algonquin. And any true actor has a foundation in stage work. So tell us a little bit about what you had done there.
Okay, well, the Algonquin Theater, and eventually that finished and became another theater. But I was with them for a few years. We did Shakespeare. We also did Shakespeare. We took it to Central. We were in Central Park as well with that company, and Hortensio. I was in. It was Taming the Shrew. We did a lot of projects there. It was actually right, the North Broadway Theater. Well, the 10 Grand Productions was Jason Hewitt's company, and it came to the theater because the Al Tapper, who real estate guy, who was also composer, and wanted to do some Broadway things, so he invested in the theater, and there was a collaboration as well. And that, I'll tell you, wow, there's a lot of work and a lot of when you do theater, you really hone your chops. And I recommend that. And when people ask, and they're listening, people who are watching this about, well, how do I do what you're doing? And rather than I can't just hook you up or magic or anything, or here's the name of somebody. I give two suggestions. One is, well, if you go to a conservatory for a couple of years, you can afford that, and then maybe like Juilliard, or American Academy of Dramatic Arts. But the other one is get involved with a theater company. There's so many in New York. I mean, where you do everything, help out with the stage. You could do a show. You could do whether it's a comedy, a drama. You are with others who are doing the same thing, the same mindset, and you're going to get to do things because it's different levels before Broadway. And in New York, especially, or even in towns throughout the United States, whether it's community theater, those are folks who are often hungry and they want to do it. So you're sharing, and the synergy, it's more than the sum of its parts, win-win. I mean, you can't beat that. It's like, if you say, well, if they're not paying, I just want to do Law and Order. Wait a second. If you love doing this, then you're going to want to perform, right? I mean, you could find whatever you want to do. You don't have to do that. You could say no to that and do something else. I mean, you could do your own short film. You could just read scenes. I've done all of those things. Every now and then, I'll, over the years, I'll get a scene partner and we'll just read, not to critique. We'll just do it to practice. And a theater company itself, where we also did, short scenes. And I got from that Ken Jennings, who same name as the Jeopardy guy, I think. He was in a Tony-nominated actor who ended up we had several theaters in the Algonquin, and one of them they used for teaching. So he actually was. We had another play that was going on at the same time. I was a reader. This guy auditioned, and he was wonderful. He became a teacher there. He invited me to his class, and the director came. And in that, I did a scene, and I got the nightclub singer. I got a role in that. In fact, it wasn't just that discovery. He had me do this scene 10 times over, and I thought, wow, either I really suck and I'm doing the worst thing in the world. I got to get out of this field. But no, he saw that how I was developing, because the character wasn't totally right for me, but he saw that I got it, and he showed others. So he was seeing how I was listening. So I rose to the challenge. I did this scene in this class, and Nick Taylor from the movie Paradise East, this really wild, romp, this crazy film, and he gave me a role. He said, "You're perfect for it." I mean, after that, he saw how I responded, how I had a positive attitude. I didn't say, "Oh, I would never do this role that you're giving me," and I didn't say, "Oh man, why do you have me do this over and over?" I did it. I said, "You know what? I want to learn. I want to be open. I'll take what I can from this." Though they say, leave the rest behind, which they also say in the different, rooms for recovery things. But you know what? Well, actors have challenges, too. But I listened and I did it, and it's relationships. So perform. If you love doing this, then you'll find a way to do it, and then the rest will come in a healthy way. And I think I know the lives of folks here, especially I know Scott. I follow this guy, a lot as well. Not in a kind of a stalky way, but in a good stalk. I didn't show up your house or, but I mean, no, seriously, I know. Yeah, no, but really, we learn from each other. Let me just say that. And you know what? That's the whole thing. You be around like-minded people, because you know what? If you be around the negative, if you hang around bank robbers, so sooner or later you'll be driving the getaway car, or if you hang out with pigs, you'll be waking up in slop. But if you're around others who love to have fun, I mean, which is a lot of work. And you know what? Yeah, there are things you have to do. You have to adjust your life, but it won't feel like work. It's work. You have to work at something, and the rewards will be, I think, to look back and have no regrets.
Well, here's an interesting thought that just occurred to me. What process do you enjoy more? Do you enjoy the process of acting more, or do you enjoy the process of creating music more? Because my dear friend Scott here, of course, is super talented in both. And that's a question I want you to answer for me one day, Scott, because I would be curious. But go ahead, Alan.
Okay, you know what? Okay, writing, posing, and acting. One is a solitary initial experience. Performing, you have that ensemble with others. Yet, when you create something, you write it, when it's done, then you see, the fruits of your labors. And when others do something you create, I mean, that's pretty magnificent. So I think, it is. I mean, but when I create something now too, I've been doing it so long, whether it's poetry, sure. I have a couple books that, I'm in the process to release. I have a mentor. I'm waiting for the forward for one of the books, but one is about my life story and one's a book of poetry. I do that, and I'm like, hey, I created something. It's me. It's uniquely me, and it's so wonderful. When doing other folks' words, well, it's theirs, but I think how it's put together overall, and that's how I've worked toward bigger and bigger. Well, when I say, projects that are creative with everybody, I mean, I appreciate everything, whether it's walking down the street in a, like say, one of the Law and Orders, to having lines and having a fight scene in Prodigal Son. But you know what? It's that's why actually a movie, the bigger projects where you can see the whole process becoming something so much greater than when it started. But you know what? It's all valid. I don't think one is better than the other. When I could write a poem and say, this is beautiful, and it'll always be beautiful to me. I present it to somebody, and hopefully there's that lady out there who eventually I'll find the right one, and she'll think it's as beautiful as well. But you know what? When you do it, it's great no matter what. If you do it with others, it's just different. It's a whole different type of energy. But I think they're valid in their own ways. Just that, writing, of course, is more solitary, but I've grown to love it because I think because I have ways to put it out there. Whether when I volunteer with kids, I also do writing programs with adults, with disabled individuals, and you know what? We're all people. No one's better than anybody. No one's less. We all have gifts. We all have challenges. So for me, that's how I consider myself a winner.
No, absolutely. Scott, what are your thoughts on that? Which process do you get more juked about? The writing the music part or the preparing the performance part?
Wow. I my whole story is a little sort of convoluted in that music was always number one for me, and I sort of fell backwards into character acting, although I loved film and I wanted to aspire to be a film actor from a young age. I actually got into the character acting after I sort of drank my way out of the music business. So, I mean, it was a really bizarre story how it all worked out. But, I knew this man has, first of all, I was saying to Jewel earlier, I said, tonight's going to be a really cool show because finally I'll get to speak to Alan like in a one-on-one kind of way. Because like you say, David, we've all been connected online for quite a while. Mm-hmm. And Alan has been nothing but a sweetheart with being supportive and just bringing energy. The kind of energy he's bringing tonight, I'm actually kind of gobsmacked by. I wasn't even, I had no idea the guy had this kind of kinetic, wang bang doodle. It's pretty awesome. But it's hard for me to answer that. I love film very much. Mm-hmm. but I don't know if I love it as much as it sounds really corny to say how much I just love playing my guitar, but I really love playing my guitar, and I'm back to really loving it again.
Joe, I know you have a question, and I just wanted to share one thing with Scott because I think this will be touching to you, Scott. One of my favorite moments of 2022 when you and I were shooting Full Moon Fever, and we were on that bench together, fleshing out your character, Dr. Talbot, and the ideas bouncing off each other, and the performance and stuff that you pulled out was that's the kind of moment that means more to me as a filmmaker than actually any other part of the process, and that was special to me. And I hope that you felt anything about that moment. But for me, it was pretty tremendous. I have no talent musically. I blow the harmonica and make people cry when I do. But as far as that, I could say is kind of like my G spot when it comes to making films is when you get when you sit down with an actor and you convey your thoughts on where you want their character to go, and then they're smart enough and talented enough to breathe life into them, and that was pretty awesome.
Well, that was a really wonderful afternoon for myself as well. That when you have the opportunity, for me, because I don't do a whole hell of a lot of acting, this man, Alan, is all over the place. He's got energy coming out of his ears. He's on a lot of auditions. He's done a million different types of wonderful projects. I'm like the lazy man's actor. I sit and play my guitar until something just falls in my lap. But that said, when I have an opportunity to do something where I am totally at ease and feel comfortable with the director enough to really make myself vulnerable, I think that's what you're tapping into when you talk about that afternoon, because that got really vulnerable. I don't know how much of that ends up in the film because we did a few different things, but I went to a really vulnerable place, and it's scary, but it's beautiful too.
Yeah, and when you could pull it off and it's believable is what makes it magic. So that was pretty epic. John Wayne has a question for you, Alan. Would love for Alan to comment on the differences between Charlie Kaufman and Spielberg in directing style.
Well, you know what? I'll just be real simple on that because I think referring right to the when I work with Philip Seymour Hoffman. All right, that was the Synecdoche film on that, and then of course Spielberg. But my experience, Spielberg has done some epic, bigger work. He's done a range of things. When I work with, Philip Seymour Hoffman, actually, I'm going to do. Just going to give like a little bit. I'm going to personalize. I'm going to kind of not completely answer that, only because that could be a whole. I appreciate it. I'm not trying to, belittle the question because that's such a big question, but I'm going to give something personal from the heart. So maybe that's how I'm going to answer that. In that, Philip Seymour Hoffman was a wonderful human being. I got to know him actually, and it's very sad. His demons, he didn't win against them. It was, he passed from a drug overdose. I think it was fentanyl. Which is the current scourge. But the thing is, he was so giving. He gave a lot to me in that, and also on the set. There was something common between, Charlie and Steven Spielberg. Great directors listen, and they let people do. I mean, I'm not going to claim that I had a major role, but it was important. When Philip Seymour Hoffman and I played this pervy guy in a dream sequence for with Philip Seymour Hoffman. So we looked at each other. So the camera was on me. In fact, Charlie said that look into the camera. Usually you don't look into the camera. You keep looking into it for 10, 15 seconds. Just look. I'm like, okay, but it was kind of hard, where you're so conditioned, you walk like, don't look at the camera, you're going to be, go back to holding. No, I had to look at the camera. I mean, Philip introduced himself. I knew who he was, but that was wonderful. And he used to do seminars and talk to actors. He was very giving. I wish he would have experienced the love, or at least felt more of that to himself. That's hard. You get people who think they see you and know you, but they don't, because we're all people. We all experience the same thing. We really are the same. We're even though, we share, even though we share the earth, we work in our own shoes. We're different in that we have different gifts, but the feelings are the same. So the thing is, Philip Seymour Hoffman, I had some communication. I mean, the scene got cut down a lot. And then I actually worked with Charlie again, and I was at the Flight of the Conchords, I think. So I worked, so many different things, and it's true. And actually, I do have some footage for things that were cut, some I don't, and some are out there. And it's all real. I'm not making all this stuff up, but yeah. And I mean, as far as Steven Spielberg, he worked a lot with his cinematographer. I know that, with his DP. The great guy that, I mean, that they communicated a lot. That was a style of Steven Spielberg. I know that, just to be simplistic and kind of give you somewhat of an answer, John Wayne, that's a major thing that Steven Spielberg does is visualizing and seeing the things. So, but on my experience on the other project with Charlie was that it was maybe because the part that I had, it was more personal. It was a smaller, more intimate, and the movie actually very psychological, got some acclaim. But unfortunately, at the same time, there was another movie that was released by Philip Seymour Hoffman, so that one overrode it. He did so many things in a short time. He did a lot. Actually, I'm feeling I'm feeling it inside because I love that guy, really. I mean, I used to volunteer. I volunteered for 10 years with the SAG Foundation, SAG Legacy. Now it's SAG After. But and so when he would come to speak, I got to know him that way. So I got to know him as a person. I'm not as like, oh, wow, I'm the fan. I hung out with him. No, I mean, he was giving. I'm like, hey, welcome. Here's, hang out backstage. Hello, how are you doing? So I got to see his heart. So, that's something that I got to experience and, on set with the director and, and most people, what? There are a lot of good folks in this business. I mean, there are some that are terrible, but that's any business. And I think it's how we focus. Always trust your feeling inside, and there are no shortcuts. If you think, well, this person's bad, but you know what? They have some success. No, you know what? Whoever's listening to this right now, you're worthy. You don't deserve, to be hurt in any way. So, I think, most of the directors, I can't say a situation where it was really anybody terrible. I mean, Joel Schumacher he walked several blocks to the background holding to thank background. I mean, people often in the higher positions are really wonderful, but always be aware, trust your instincts. Again, like you say, no one's better than you. They might have success in a certain way. That's just an achievement. Your success, as Scott said, David, Joe, it's really the beauty you bring into the world. That's what I believe.
Nice. All right. So I've got a question now, if I may. Now, as you may know, a lot of our viewers, they're trying to break into the acting career, whether it be indie film or on stage. And one thing that tends to boost their confidence level is when somebody like you shares an embarrassing story that they either had on set or on stage. We had Bill Sadler do it, and whoa, was it a doozy.
Yeah,
So,
the famous William.
I got it.
William
And I've
Sadler
never
took
shared
a
it.
shit on stage while he was doing a play on Broadway. That's a hard one to top.
Okay, I'm gonna share this. I was cast in Martin Scorsese on Vinyl, the TV show HBO. I played totally nude. I was a rocker. Yeah, I did it. I thought, well, it's Scorsese. It's not gratuitous. Well, I did it, and I passed out from food poisoning, and I go to the hospital in front of everybody. And Scorsese, Marty said at the end, "Oh, let's thank Alan. He did a great job." I mean, yes, I actually, at all these years, in the flesh, I had no clothes on. Other than that, it was actually it was a great experience. Well, other than passing out and being sick for 3 days afterward, I I was doing okay. Did the scene. A lot of the folks I work with, the other actors, I knew, and we were very protective of each other. It was like an orgy scene, but with the touching and stuff. But we respected. I mean, some of the actors there, the higher principals would kind of, a little bit of the gawking and stuff. It was, it made some of the women a little nervous. But generally, we looked after each other. Believe it or not, it was that like protectiveness. I ate something earlier. I mean, when there's lots of food on set, and I always like to try everything. And then at the end, there was like one dish that was brought in. It was a Mexican thing. It was outside. It was very hot and sunny. And I'm like, I want to try that. So, it's an adventure. I like to try different things. So I ate some of it and then went to set and I was a little feeling, I don't know. I thought I had a little bit too much to eat. So I had some water and I just had to keep drinking. And now they had a green set, which meant that there weren't the bottles there. You had to ask for water. And we had to keep asking because I had no place to put the water. I mean, I had a bathrobe, I took it off. So I had to ask, somebody at production, please get me water. And so when I drank some water, I would feel a little better. And then I needed some more water. And as I went to get, during the break, like, I'd like to have some more water and blump. And then, of course, then I hear like the medic, it's like, Alan. It's like saying things. He said to me, he said, so what drugs are you on? I said, I'm not on any drugs. I'm like, what happened? I said, I haven't been feeling well. And I'm like, when I had water, I felt better. He's like, well, yeah, you could tell me what drugs. No, I'm not feeling well. And then he's like, all right. And then he gave me some orange juice. And I'm like, it was after almost a 15-hour day. We were almost going to wrap. And he's like, well, the ambulance is coming. I said, no, I can do this. And I was going to finish. He said, no, well, you don't have to go to the hospital, but you can't finish. I said, I'm okay. I want to finish it. So I said, all right, I'll go and get checked out. When I went to the emergency room, they gave me like saline. I was dehydrated and I explained, I was on a set and fell down nude. And they're like, oh, it was anxiety. I said, no, I've been doing this for like 20 years. I know. I mean, something was wrong. And I said, could it be food poisoning? They said, no, you would be, throwing up and diarrhea. And I'm like, I don't know. And then as they were going to release me, went to the bathroom and my stomach started to feel bad. And I called a friend who took me to his house. And for the next 3 days, I was worshiping the porcelain, a throne, as they say. I was thrown. I mean, it was food poisoning. And so I actually passed out. It was a big set there with Martin Scorsese and his assistant, his partner called me, how are you doing, next day. And I said, well, I'm getting better. And, that was no clothes and on the ground. And, the people who I worked with, they were worried about me. And I think that far outshone when I did the Shakespeare and I stepped on the curtain. That was another thing, which I had a monologue. It was like at the end, it was closing it, for Hortensio. I was going out for my monologue and I on the curtain, I kind of slipped and it kind of, and this is live. And I did that last take and it was a comedic character, but I did it with intensity like you've never heard it before. I said, I'm going to do this. And a friend who was in the audience had said, you really, you rose to the occasion. And that could have thrown me. I mean, I actually slid on the curtain of the stage there while going out. And I thought, oh my God. I'm like, but I just did it. I'm like, I said, let me do it. I'm here. I love this. This is what I do. I can't help the fact that I almost, slipped on that. I did slip. So that was the honorable mention. But the main thing I think was that, and occasionally being left in holding when they would end the scene, like the one that the second AD on War of the Worlds, when he was starting out as a PA, he left me in holding and he forgot to tell me, or filming rather, that wasn't holding. They were filming a scene and hysterical blindness was this thing. And it was supposed to be a bar and they were using apartment and they had me go in and it was supposed to be shadows in the window. So I took it was somebody's apartment, like a ball, and I was dancing. I was making like I was a bunch of characters on the window, but I couldn't open the door when they had the camera on me because I didn't I'd ruin the shot. So I'm in there making like I'm all these characters, and I'm like, this is taking a while. And then somebody comes in, the person who lives there, and I said, are they still there? He said, no, they left. And they forgot to tell me that they had wrapped the scene. And I'm like, so I ran out and I ran the 2 blocks to Holding, and that PA said, I apologize. So we, formed a relationship. I said, all right, no problem. And became friends. And I gave him some leads for different shows, and he moved up in the business a bit. And when on War of the Worlds, he remembered me, and he brought me, to Spielberg, and there were, to be the person who'd be the mark. So I got a whole month's of work. We filmed in Newark, we filmed in Bayonne. It was an incredible experience. Every day in the morning, hey, Steven Spielberg said hi, and Tom Cruise, and I was right there, and so I did it, and you know what, gratitude goes a long way too, and being humble. Like, yeah, I didn't want to get left behind at Holding or fall on the ground and everybody look at me when I'm naked, and I'm like, and like, what about shrinkage? I'm like, my God, I'm like, and it was cold in there, I look good though. I actually work. I got to tell you, without the clothes, I worked toward that, to look good. But when you're on the ground there, nobody's looking at you, and that's kind of an unusual. I'm like, am I going to work again? Is this they're going to hold this against me? And yeah, food poisoning. Yeah, that was probably the most embarrassing. But you know what? It didn't kill me.
Well,
So
that's a doozy of a story you got there.
Yeah, and then we need to watch out for PAs and craft services.
There you go.
Know where
Alan,
they are.
Where
Yes.
can people find you on social media if they want to follow your career?
Well, you know what? Okay, I have the fan page. They could like that, but you know what? It's funny because the friend page, they could follow that. That's just almost about 5,000, because the fan page, the way they have that with the heuristics and stuff, doesn't always get the attention. But generally, they could find out what I'm doing a lot on my I would say the friend page, for that. But like both of them, or at least follow my friend page and like the Alan Gary Actor official fan page. So yeah, they could do that, and I thank everybody for that, and I appreciate it. I'll always do my best so that make people proud, and to smile and to feel good, and and I'm very grateful for everything that I have done, and all that. And thank you, everybody.
I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight. Please continue to stay in touch with me on Facebook. I think you're a dear friend and a great guy, and I look up to some of the just the human kindness that you put out there and the good vibes. And this show is watched by a lot of people who make independent films. I can wholeheartedly say, if you want to cast a really cool cat and a great actor and a great guy, reach out to Alan, because he's just all of those things. And yeah,
need to get Alan and Scott in a movie together.
There you go.
Thanks.
That would be cool.
Alan, thank you so much for joining us tonight, and stay in touch with everybody and keep being that cool dude that you are.
Thank you, Alan. Good night.
Good night, Alan.
Well, having somebody on the show with that much experience, that's just wealth of knowledge.
Yeah, no, he's seen it all. He's done stage work, he's done television work, he's done big screen work, he's worked with Steven Spielberg. And what impresses me most about Alan is not only his incredible talent as a performer, but what impresses me most about Alan is the quality of human being he is. And you could just, in him joining us tonight, you could see what a fantastic guy he is, and how charming, and he was just a great guest to have on with that. Yes,
yeah. Super sweetheart.
So we did another show, fellas.
We did.
It's amazing how we can do this, because we're all pretty feeble. But...
True. Can't believe I'm still sitting upright.
So we're going to have a show next week, because we're supposed to every now and then do this, because we're not having a show next week. Is it Easter? Oh, you're not going to be around? Uh-oh, I asked somebody to be on the show.
Oh, okay.
Can
Well,
we-
I'll speak with JW, and he may be interested in guest producing.
if we can get JW to step in so that I don't look like a schmuck.
Oh no, I can't guarantee that I'm going to be here on Sunday because I'm leaving Orlando Sunday, so it depends on MegaCon. But
Oh,
I
you have
mean,
a con. Oh, wow, that's awesome, man.
I accidentally made the mistake of asking the amazingly talented and beautiful actress from 100 Days of Night, Megan Franich, to be on our show. So hopefully we'll have somebody who could step in to be run all the chicanery. If we can't, then I will have to beg her to forgive me because I'm old. And
hey JW, you're commenting right now. Can you do next Sunday night?
He's like, I don't even know these assholes.
Yeah, and Scott's leaving.
Scott's like, I'm checking out.
But Scott doesn't have his guitar on the couch this time. So
Oh,
I
JW.
can't believe you noticed that. Oh my God, I'm thinking, should I bring the guitar down? Because I'm always thinking I'm going to noodle, and then I'm like, my arm's hurting so badly that I didn't even pick it up.
JW is pulling the amazing Rusty Staub, great pinch hitter off the bench, is going to step in. Even though filling your shoes, Joe, is impossible, JW will step in. Thank you, JW. It's very kind.
thank you very much, JW. And that's, permitting if I can get here or not.
And
I'm
then
gonna damn this.
and then the week after that's Easter, so of course we won't be on that. And who knows the week after that?
I may have my second grandkid arriving around then.
Oh, congratulations! That's awesome.
Thanks.
That's awesome.
Scary.
I guess it's the third weekend in next month. If I don't, as long as I get over the border, I won't be here. So
I can't be Joe. I can only hope to my Thank you, JW. Greatly appreciate it. So, David, we got to ask again about an update on that certain movie that you're doing or releasing.
Oh, Full Moon Fever will see the light of day September 29th of this year. And so just stay tuned. Everything is, you know what? I'm actually very, very, very happy with the way it's coming out. I know it's taking forever to get this movie out. I shot most of it during the COVID times. And to be brutally honest with the folks out there, there's ways of doing movies in this day and age. Like Mr. Hush was a 38 day principal photography movie where I flew everybody in from Hollywood, like Brad Loree and Stephen Jeffries and Steve Dash and Tony, all the heavy hitters who were involved in that movie came out, and we just banged that movie out in 38 days of principal photography. This movie, because I shot the majority over COVID, was more of a labor of love. I had Marianne Hagen come out from Halloween Resurrection, and a dear friend of the show, not Resurrection, Halloween 6. She played Kara Strode. And Grunkle Scott has a part, Jim Crut has a part, and maybe somebody from American Werewolf might pop in on it. And we put this wonderful film together kind of as a labor of love. And as I was making it, my initial intention was, as everybody knows, I have a very good relationship with the guys over at Film Hub. Alan, the guy who owns the entire company, has been on this show, I think, at least 2 or 3 times. My intention was to be a small direct-to-streaming kind of film. And what happened was, as we were putting this thing together, and how many wonderful, super talented people got involved along the way, as we were putting it together, it's just taken a life of its own and is turning into like a really, really, really cool werewolf flick. So what was intended to be a very, very small movie, like kind of like Wit's End, where we went directly to streaming. This thing is kind of taking a different kind of life of its own, which is great and also horrifying at the same time. So we're putting it together. It's a really cool werewolf flick. It has some of the most engaging atmospheric shots I've ever had. It has some really, really wonderful performances. Grunkle Scott really he has a sequence right in the middle of the film that he blows me away. With he dug deep and pulled. He's very, very reminiscent of Robin Williams in Good Will Hunting. Believe it or not, just did a
Wow.
wonderful job. And I'm it's, don't get me wrong, it's still a small horror film, but
Does it have a rating yet?
no, it won't have a rating till probably June. But it's going to be a hard R because it's a werewolf movie, and I wanted to do something with the werewolf transformation scene that's never really, really been done, other than American Werewolf. To be totally fair, well, I guess it's been done in The Howling too, so maybe what I'm saying is malarkey. But I wanted the werewolf transformation scene to be especially painful and violent, because you have to imagine that turning into a fucking werewolf really sucks. And there's a lot of contemporary films that have enormous budgets that kind of, the guy turns into a werewolf almost instantaneously, his skin like melts off, and like within 15 seconds he's a full-blown werewolf. In this film, it's much, much more painful and torturous, and you feel horrible for the poor sap because he has no idea what's going on, what the fuck is wrong with him. But I mean, like, I vomit blood, my hands elongate, and it's just like, when I was filming this, I was shooting it in a home in Milford, Pennsylvania. There's 2 transformation scenes in the film. One scene, I'm filming it in a home in Milford, Pennsylvania. There's 4 cats around me who were helping me get this together, and I look up at my hand, and it starts elongating, and I am screaming like a fucking lunatic. And not 5 minutes later, we hear on their phones with the guy who owned the home, somebody called the police on us.
Wow.
Of the enormous, they thought somebody was being killed in the basement. When we got up to the door, we literally had to take the local PD down to show them that we were shooting a picture, because they were like going to shoot us.
All
But,
right, so that explains why your voice was a little hoarse back then.
Oh yeah. So I mean, stuff like the film is about a guy who loses his wife due to COVID, and his daughter goes off to college, and he's learning how to deal with being alone, and all of this. Yeah, there you go. So he's dealing with loneliness and sadness, and right at the precipice of that September when his daughter goes off to school, this poor son of a bitch, his a middle-aged guy who's trying to keep himself in shape goes out for his midnight walks, and he gets brutally attacked by a werewolf. And he then deals with what he thinks is illness, but it's really the space between his initial attack and his first transformation, which ironically enough happens on Goosey Night leading into Halloween. So it was just a lot of fun. It's a really, really cool looking film. A lot of really, really cool people helped me out with it, and we'll see what people think. That's all we can do.
You're cursed.
I'm cursed. I'm cursed to know you, JW. Screaming like I love JW. He's awesome.
Yeah, he is.
No, he is.
I know. I agree.
I don't know why you got me on that tangent. So,
Okay.
When it comes out, hopefully people will dig it. If they don't, I'll blame Scott.
All right, Scott, you got anything else, brother?
I don't actually. I'm just happy to be here. Happy to be anywhere at this point.
Scott, can you stay on for 2 minutes after the show? I just want to ask you a quick question.
Yeah, sure.
With that being said, thank you everybody for joining us tonight. Thank you, Alan, for being awesome. It was a great show. Next week, if we're on, we're going to have the wonderful Megan Franich from tons of movies. A beautiful, super talented actress will be joining us. And then will be Easter, and then who the hell knows after that. With that being said, remember, take care of your friends and family. And remember, the most important thing to remember is no man is a failure who has friends. Be well, everybody.
Thank you.